Okay, I'm going to take a look at a chess game that I played. This was the third game of my first tournament. That was a USCF tournament. It was my third ever rated chess game over the board. And I was playing a player, I believe, that was unranked at the time. However, he had won the tournament that they played before this one in the same format. So I, he was unranked because for some reason the results of that tournament did not get processed properly, something like that. Anyway, the point being, he was, by word of mouth, a pretty good player. However, I found that he made a pretty big tactical mistake almost in the opening and dropped a piece. And then this was just basically because, well, I could just show you. But the end of the game didn't go very well either. Now, I didn't play perfectly by any stretch, but I think I did take advantage of the major mistakes that he made. Now, he plays the Sicilian here, and at the time of this game, which was last July, 2010, I almost always replied with C3 here, and I don't do that anymore. I've grown to where I don't like it. The biggest problem I have is that usually my knight on B1 doesn't know where to go. If I move it to D2, then I wind up blocking my what generally turns out to be my good bishop here. So it becomes a problem, and I kind of got tired of trying to solve that problem, and I think that's why a lot of people don't play C3, which I don't blame them for now that I've got some experience with it. Uh, I actually usually play the open Sicilian now and reply to almost every black second move with D4. So this is the way I opened most of my games with the Sicilian at the time. And he continues along this little plan that he created. He talked to me about it after the game, and he called it a diamond formation. And he mentioned that every time he plays a game with this diamond formation in his pawns, that he runs into trouble. Well, like you can see why when he's weakened his light squares on the queen side so much. Basically, this leads to all sorts of pins and problems here for this. This piece becomes the problem in a little while. But yeah, this piece, the problem with this diamond formation, as he calls it, is that it weakens the dark or the light squares on the queen side, and so I mean it seems like it might be a strong pawn formation, but only on the dark squares. It's just full of holes on light squares, so it allows some penetration here along the light squares. So I didn't immediately take advantage of that. I typically get caught in this pin here, and I have to deal with that. But yes, a better maybe second or whatever. Let's go back. A better move here than maybe knight f3 would be to play bishop b5. At least it seems to me on the surface. I haven't really explored that opening line to see what kinds of lines. I doubt that this is going to be booked because of this strange sort of d6 move that he played. But it's possible that playing bishop b5 here is going to be good for white. But I did not play it. We went on this line, so I had to commit my light square bishop over here instead because he went ahead and swapped out f3. So I get my king to safety. This all looks pretty standard, and then he thrusts with e5. Now, I have two bishops. He has one bishop. So in my mind, I'm thinking that I would like to open up the center. So things that I could play could be d takes e5 like this, in which he probably would respond here. And then we're going to be swapping queens probably. Or I can move it off to the side, something like this. Or something like this. This line looks fine too. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. So let's go back to where we were. So what I actually played was queen a4 to take advantage of this light square weakness, which I had in mind. I just thought I would have a longer time to do it, and then my light square bishop got diverted. So here is the pin that I was talking about, and the immediate threat here is d5. And I figured he would probably respond to it somehow, maybe with this. And so I was looking at this line over the board, something like this, or even what have? Oh, I'm pinned. Something like this, which I believe is pretty good, and leaves him with an isolated pawn. So that's the line that I was looking at. However, he doesn't apparently see that simple tactic, or just misses it, and he plays Queen C7, which I immediately respond to with D5. Now here's a spot that I think I need to learn from. Uh, he plays Rook C7 or Rook C8 over here to make sure that he's going to win whatever piece, the pawn that I come up with here if we swap, which is fine. I mean, that makes some sense. But at this point, I immediately capture the knight. But do I need to do that? The piece is still pinned. And I think I'm just probably psychologically worried about him coming up with a move to weasel out of it. I don't know what, but I've been prone to miss moves over the board, and I've got a sure win here, so I just take it. But is there a better move here? I mean, can I do something like this and pile up even more pressure along that pin? I'm of the opinion that I probably can get away with that, and I want to study this move a little bit more. Um, I mean, what would he do here? He still can't move the knight, so that knight is going to be taken by that pawn next move. So, I mean, what is he going to do here? Just try to castle as soon as possible, but he's still got another move with that pin, unless he breaks it by just moving the king away. Now, at this point, I would have to take. Yeah, I have to go back. So, my thought is maybe I can, that would be an advantage, because here, if I'd done that, then he can't castle anymore, so his king's going to be in the center. The center is going to be fairly closed, but there's going to be a weakness on d6, because after all these exchanges, I'm going to play c4 just to lock down that d6 pawn. It's not going anywhere, and then I can double rooks and all that stuff, which I do actually wind up doing in the game. So my thought process here is that taking on c6 isn't necessarily the best move in that position, because the piece is still pinned. And I've seen this tactic in other games where more of an advantage is built up before that piece is taken. And I would like to learn a little bit more. I would like to be able to do that in my games. At least look a little deeper, because I didn't really do that over the board. So that seems to be a weakness of mine, kind of a blind spot. So I'm just moving forward in the game, and I did exactly what I told you I was going to do, which is I locked down that d6 pawn to give a long-term weakness. My thought process is I'm up a full piece here, so I will eventually be able to not only win that pawn also, but penetrate into black's position. All the while being pretty solid in my pawn structure. I can always play b3 and lock that pawn down. Later on, I'll be able to play f3 and lock that pawn down, and these would be away from his dark square bishop, so that he wouldn't be able to attack my pawns. So that was kind of my thought process here. I did think at some point I'm going to play the knight to d5 in order to just start swapping pieces and magnify the piece advantage and eventually the pawn advantage. So now I'm doubling. This is all fine. Now he makes a pretty big weakness here on g7. Or the g6 move makes a pretty big weakness on the dark squares over here. I do still have a dark square bishop, so h6 is a nice little spot for my bishop to come and hang out at some point. And right here, if you can tell, that rook's not able to move, so winning the exchange is definitely in my mind here. Along with forks. I can fork the rook and king on one of these two squares if this bishop happens to be taken away somehow. So I am looking at tactics along those lines at this point. So he moves here, and at this point, this is a pretty major mistake. He is going to lose his rook here, actually the exchange, and he tries to block that by moving the bishop, but that gets the bishop off of the diagonal that I was referring to, which leads to this fork, and it's just a pure win of a rook at this point. And swapping here, he has to take on this, and then I just win the clean rook, and of course that leaves me up a rook and a piece at that point. So in this position, he did resign, and I won the game. Like I said, there are a couple of little features of this game that pique my interest somewhat, especially the thought process that I referred to as being a blind spot here, where I think there might be a better, what do you call it, a Zwischenzug? Is that right? An in-between move? I don't know if that's going to be the proper terminology for this type of thing, but that's what comes to mind. And what I'm referring to again is the fact that this piece is pinned and I'm going to win it doesn't mean I have to win it on the very next available move. It is a pin that's still active at this point. He still cannot move the knight. It is still attacked by that pawn. No matter what I move next, there's nothing that can remove that for his next move since he didn't get out of the pin. So that's something that I'm going to look into, and if you have any comments on that particular tactic, maybe this specific position, I'd love to hear them. Okay, thanks for watching.